All right. So, Guy, first things first, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really, really good. Thanks. Just having a good week with the album release, and yeah, like excited for what's happening next.
Yeah, what are the feelings? Because obviously you build up to a moment like this. What are the emotions, the feelings? Is it nerves? Is it what's going through your mind these days?
Yeah, there is a lot of nerves because like every day there's some kind of publication or even just friends that you like getting messages from and or like reviews coming in, and you always just like want to be sure that you're doing yourselves and the rest of the band and your friends proud. So yeah, nerves surrounding just like what people think of the album and the new songs. Um, Also just like a huge relief for it to finally be out,
Mm.
knowing that you can't change it, you can't reorder the tracks, or you can't change the artwork or anything. It just is that, and as soon as as soon as you see it on the shelf, there's no all of that goes out the window. You don't have any questions or regrets or anything. It's just like, well, that's it. That's that album, and
Mm.
just suddenly just become proud of it.
We'll get to that part a little bit later because I believe you had a hand in the production of the album as well. So I can imagine that making those decisions and knowing when to stop can be very tricky. But we'll
Yeah.
we'll get to the album a little bit later. I want to delve into to where your journey in a sense started. Do you remember when you kind of first realized you wanted to be in a band?
Um, Let me think. When I first picked up a guitar because um when I think I was about 9 years old. There was a kid who was also about 9 years old, moved to the house across the road from my family, and there was like no one else on that street who was remotely like my age or anything. And I'm thinking, oh damn, I need to be friends with this kid because like we can, whatever, go and whatever we did, went on bikes and stuff. And
Sure.
and then I remember him being at school. I saw him with a guitar on his back, and I thought, oh well, if I'll get a guitar and start doing guitar lessons, and then we can have that in common. And just happened that we had like the classic, like terrible acoustic guitar at home that I didn't even realize was there. So I called, turn up to guitar lessons, meet my friend Josh, who's basically I have him to thank for everything
Okay.
because of I've ever done because I wouldn't have bothered. And I think really I couldn't tell you when I first knew I wanted to be in a band, but I found it quite easy those first sort of few steps of like beginner guitar,
Hmm.
and I think I just didn't really consider that you wouldn't be in a band if you played an instrument. So it's just there was other people at school who played drums or whatever, and you just be oh well I play guitar now, so you play drums, so let's go and play guitar and drums, and it never stopped.
What is the and this is going to be I don't know a weird question, but what is the joy in playing music with others?
It's really um
I know it's difficult to put into words.
yeah, no, it is, but it's the only reason to do it for me.
Hmm.
It's there's a lot of like groundwork you can do on your own. You can like do your own self-development. You can practice, you can write, but for me none of it ever really makes sense until the other people that you trust musically enough to play with and to show what you're working on, until they accept it and you play it together, it just makes no sense. You don't know whether it's any good, you don't know if anyone else is going to like it. This is for me personally anyway. And
Hmm.
yeah, just the feeling of like whether it's a song that started off as yours or someone else in the band, or it's a cover and you're in a pub band or whatever, until you're playing it together, it's kind of pointless to me. um so everything else is kind of just like practice for being in a band.
Right. Well, What was it like then meeting the people that you're in a band with now and kind of figuring out that chemistry? Was it immediate? Did you kind of immediately know, okay, this is going in differently than with other people that I play music with?
No, it took like many years
Okay.
actually. We all know each other for a long time, but also at like staggering points.
Mm,
So uh of the four of us, the first I knew was Joe. Um, but when I met him, I was like recording his band, his like it's like a cover band, and they were putting a demo together. So I met him through that, and Joe's a bit younger than me, and he was the youngest in that band. And I just remember him being this like tiny person with huge bass. He's a really good bass player.
okay.
Um, and that was I kind of like bumped into him every now and then over the next few years. But there came a point when I was starting a new band. I was like racking my brains about who can play bass, and I didn't still at that point didn't really know Joe that well. But I remembered like, oh, I really liked his bass playing, and
Mm.
I'll ask him. He was like, yeah, cool. And then from then, like over the next few years, we made really good friends, and we were in this band, and we did all the stuff that you normally do. And within that time, uh, we met Steph and Jess just through like being at gigs. They weren't so much, um, they weren't like playing in bands, but Steph was like promoting nights at a club that she worked at.
Mm.
Uh, Jess was like just someone who was keen on like going to gigs. So we all just like met by chance through that. And then it wasn't until we'd all known each other for a good 3 or 4 years, I think, that Steph and Jess decided to like pick up a couple of guitars and start writing together, just really out of boredom and fun.
Okay.
That they like had recently left their jobs and were like looking for another job. So basically they were unemployed. And me and Joe got home from one of our rehearsals one day, back to my flat, and Steph and Jess were there just like going, oh, check out these couple of songs we've written. And we listened to them and wow, like that's like really different and super cool. And our band was kind of fizzling out, and basically just said like, can we be in this? We and yeah, so that's how we figured that out. Really, it was just that none of us even really considered that we'd be in a band together. But Steph and Jess wrote these couple of songs, and we were into it, and yeah, it all just fell into place. But it took a long time.
Yeah, maybe it was too long ago, but did any of those songs that you mentioned, did they end up on Killjoy or no?
No, the only
Okay,
song of those first couple that became a Coach Party song, um, actually, it wasn't even one of those two initial ones, but in those early days, Lola was written,
sure.
and I remember it. Can't remember exactly what was happening, but it was a snow day. Um, like as in like nothing was functioning
Right.
because it snowed a little bit. And I think Jess and Steph were planning on going over to Southampton to do something. Boat got cancelled, and so they're like, "Oh, okay." And then, well, let's write a song then. And they wrote Lola, which ended up "Oh Lola," which ended up on our first EP. I think. Do you know what? No, there's one more. Kind of. There was a demo. There's an early song which we stopped playing, but then we revamped a couple of years later, and it became "Everybody Hates Me."
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like musically an older song, which we knew that we really liked the feel of that song, but we didn't really connect with the lyrics anymore, and we just
Mhm.
kind of like fell out of love with it. But one day, maybe it was Joe or Jess, kind of said like, "Oh, do you remember that song? It never really came out how we intended." And just keep on thinking about it and how it could just be like way better. And yeah, that was nice.
One last question, kind of about the early part, because you mentioned Joe being a good bass player, you obviously starting on guitar now, and now you play drums, and Joe is on guitar. Uh,
Hmm.
this well, first I suppose I should ask, what is it like moving to drums, and kind of was that a passion as well when you were younger, and how did you develop into kind of the drummer slash producer of the band?
Well, the drum side of it was really just like, again, from being at school, when there's a bunch of people who want to play music, and inevitably at some point there'll be no one in the room who plays drums. And I think I'm quite lucky in that I kind of learn from watching people do things. So
Mm.
I guess I have the ability to kind of make sense of stuff visually. And I was lucky enough to be surrounded by people who like, I thought were really cool drummers. And so I think that there was just a point where I said, "Oh well, I'll play drums in this band then," and that was my way in, and I must have been about 14 or 15 when that happened. Um, from that, I think that kind of made me realize that I'm not a guitarist. I'm
Mm.
someone who's just like musical. I've never really been an expert at anything, but the thing I think my strength is that I can absorb the basics of quite a lot of things, which, in my opinion, is what makes me a producer. That's what I
Right.
see a producer as, someone who knows like the basic language of any member of the band, and who can, I could talk to a clarinet player, and I can't play clarinet, but I've held one and I've been told like, oh, it's basically like saxophone, except this, and things like that. It's just those tiny bits of information
Sure.
that make that suddenly people trust you, because they don't expect you to know anything about their instrument or their style of music. But as soon as you show that like basic like respect and understanding, they um suddenly they want you to collaborate with them, because they have realized that, oh, this person's interested in music, full stop.
Mm.
Like that's not just their music or their instrument. And the people that I idolize in the production world, I think, are people like that. Like the main example would be George Martin, who's
Okay.
someone who he's uh you don't really he's brilliant. He was a brilliant instrumentalist and writer and everything, and but not really known for any one of those things. And I think he would have, I'm sure he did, in fact, like refer to himself as being like a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Mm.
That kind of sentiment. And I just always think that, especially when you're working with a band, that's that's what I'd want in a producer. So
But,
yeah, yeah.
oh, sorry to interrupt, but I find it interesting that you mentioned George Martin. So when Coach Party started, did you kind of have a vision for the band then? Did you kind of have an idea of how it would aesthetically look, what kind of music you would kind of make? Did you kind of plan it out in a way?
Uh, no, but retrospectively, I I tend to have a trait of, whatever I'm working with, if it's guitar music, by the time I've like fully got my teeth sunk into it, basically the guitars get heavier and the drums get
Mm.
harder. That's Those are two things that I kind of can't resist. So, and I think you can hear that throughout our like 4 records so far,
Sure.
is that it just like every time I'm just kind of tempted to go, oh, just take it a bit further, just a bit louder, and I think that's just, I just enjoy that kind of sound. I like it when it sounds like the drummers just hitting everything as hard as they fucking can. And
Mm.
I like the sound of, I like the feel of things being on the edge of like breaking. And so that's, yeah, I don't think I'd try to do it, but I just can't resist it. And being the one who's produced the records, I guess that's my fault that that's happened.
But well, let's get into the creative process then, because what is generally, and I suppose it's different for each song, but what is generally the way that you operate? Is it music first? Do lyrics come in later? How does a song in general come together?
It's always different,
Okay.
but the ones that come together the fastest and that we tend to be happy with the soonest are the ones that happen all at the same time. So
Mm.
there's no preconceived idea. We're in the rehearsal room and someone plays something. It could be just be a mistake, or they're just like tuning the guitar up, and someone will go, "Oh, that's really cool," and then we'll just go, oh, "Okay, well, let's play," and then we might suggest like, "Okay, well, in that case, Joe, if you do this while Steph's doing that thing that we liked, um, we'll just play that for a bit." And Jess has this knack of just like freestyling, like what starts off as just like funny, like bullshit over whatever someone's playing. And there's always like a segment of what she's doing where we'll go, "That's such a cool line,"
Mm.
or like lyric or melody or something. It's always like at least one thing that we grab hold of. And we either then just like develop on it there and then, or if it doesn't come together within a few minutes, or we're all kind of struggling, then we just make a quick like phone recording of it, and we'll just take it away. And maybe like a day later or two, one of us will say, "Oh, I've got this idea of how we could turn that into a verse. Should we have a go at that
Mm.
tonight?" And so those are the ones that come together really easily. Then there's things like, for example, on the new record, there's like microaggression.
Mm.
Uh, that's one that started off as like a collection of riffs from Joe. So he said, "I've got these two or three guitar riffs." We probably didn't say that. He probably just been playing them in sound checks for the last 3 months, and then eventually we're like, "Joe, do you want to show us that riff?" And so ones like that can be way more difficult because we've all heard it a lot over a period of time, put it down as a demo, put some drums on it and things like, "Wow, this feels really cool." And it's like, right, that done that now. Now let's do vocals. And there's like so much pressure on that for any of us, and especially for Jess being the one who
Yeah.
has to actually vocalize it, um, to show us and be like, "Cool, here's this instrumental that everyone loves. What do you think of this?" And if it's not like perfect straight away, um, like none of it's there's nothing that any of us none of us are ever like embarrassed by stuff, but there's like this daunting thing of like, "Oh no, what if we can't crack this?" And
Mm.
that song took like months
Okay.
to get right.
Well, with that in mind, what was the turning point then? Because from what I've gathered in my research is, I mean, you've the band has been received well. You've had some nice opportunities to play all over. So what was the turning point then, where things came together for the band? Was that kind of like a quick transition, or as you mentioned, did you have to build to it, and then kind of all of a sudden things started to work?
Yeah, it's so slow,
Okay.
and it's to the point where like I don't think we'd even accept that it's turned. It's because we just have it's like having a dog and you don't see the dog grow up, but
Sure.
your uncle visits and go, "Wow, the dog's gone grey," and you go, "Oh yeah, dog's gone really grey." But if I have to retrospectively, I would look at moments like, this is like a long time ago, but our first proper tour, which maybe is in 2021,
Mm.
um, towards the end of that year, we'd already had like a lot of time to release music, do a couple of gigs here and there. So by the time we did this first tour, we already had two EPs out. Um, People had a chance to get to know the music and whatever else. And our second gig in to that was at a venue called Sneaky Pete's in Edinburgh. It's like 100 capacity, tiny, but like quite a legendary place. And we sold it out. So it was our first sellout show ever. And I think that even though it was 100 people, um, which is like tiny, we got there like, wow, this is about in the UK, this is about as far away from home as we can get, really. And there's 100 people here who know our songs and want to come and see us play. They're not our friends yet. We've never met them. They've got no reason to want to do us a favor. And
Sure.
they've bought tickets. And there's a couple of moments on that tour where it was like that. And I think that just showed us that we're not a local band anymore. We've suddenly become something different from what we thought we were. And I think that gave us like a lot of confidence to suddenly treat ourselves with more respect, and think, well, we can do this for like such a wide range of people. It's not just our friends anymore who will be interested in this. So I think I'd say that was probably the biggest turning point.
Okay.
But it was more like a catalyst for everything else. It's not. It just sort of showed us what we could do.
Yeah, and I can imagine, because these days, or you've toured with Queens of the Stone Age, and that's quite a different animal as well, I suppose. But what I enjoyed, because I watched some of those Killjoy diaries on YouTube, and I can't believe I can't remember what exactly you said, but you were very aware that this was what you've kind of had worked for, that being able to play those shows in front of those people, that was kind of. It felt like you were very cognizant of enjoying the moment in that. Am I right in saying that? And how come?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was we knew about those gigs for a bit longer than we were allowed to announce it. And so for us, there's been this like a couple of months where we were just like imploding because we wanted to tell everyone about this incredible thing. And it's Queens of Stone Age, like for most people, they're just like one of our favorite bands. Sure. Already. Just love them, and Joe especially. Like they are Joe's favorite band. Like there's nothing compares to Queens of Stone Age for Joe. So even just being excited on Joe's behalf, if nothing else, we were just like, wow, this is so incredible, not just for us, but like, Joe, come on, like this is Queens of Stone Age. And it was, I think we just made sure that we enjoyed it, because we've done some big gigs before, and we realized how quickly they come and go. You think about it for ages, and then you come off stage and you go, oh God, that was it. And I can't even remember it. I think we knew that, okay, if we're going to enjoy this, we have to like stop, like pinch ourselves, go like, this is ridiculous, look where we are, and like tell each other, if you like, look at this, look at the back, look at Queens of the Stone Age over there, and like look at all these people. And it was remarkably, there was loads of people there who were excited to see us. And we had people, once we announced it, we had like people from around the country and from the show we did in Lyon with them, just saying like, oh, I can't believe you guys are playing supporting Queens of Stone Age. I'm like twice as excited now, and we don't know what to do with that kind of compliment. We just think like, okay, but enjoy Queens of the Stone Age, forget about us. So yeah, when we got there, we really were like there's like tourists, thinking like, okay, get photos, make sure you do everything, do some bucket list stuff,
right?
And yeah, there's some moments that we'll just like never forget. Yeah, so I think we would have been foolish to not just like really take in the whole experience.
No,
and it was a masterclass.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I thought that was wonderful to see, because a lot of bands that I speak to, whenever things start happening, that they're not really, they kind of fall into this roller coaster of work and doing all these different types of things. Oh, are you still there? I think it froze.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, but so they sometimes I hear from bands they sometimes in the moment fail to kind of recognize it and enjoy it, and it's cool to see that you guys kind of were aware of what was happening.
Yeah.
When we finally about the album then, because well, yeah, let me ask it this way: is there a song on the album that thematically is close to you?
Yes. There's one song on the album that I wrote the lyrics for. I think it's in
Okay.
its entirety. Like there's songs that like one person writes. There's songs that we write completely together. Sometimes like someone will bring in a verse and a chorus, and we finish off the rest. There's all sorts. But occasionally there's songs where one of us will just come in and say, "Here's a song. What should we do with it?" And my song on the album, like that, is Parasite.
Okay.
That was one where I don't think when it was one that just literally fell out of the guitar and out of my mouth. And I think at the time I didn't consider that it would be a coach party song.
Mm.
But after a couple of days, I thought, actually, no, I'll show everyone. Because I thought, actually, I can just imagine like everyone playing this, and they'll either say, "Oh, great, yeah, let's do that," or "No chance." And thankfully, everyone was nice about it, and we tried it, and yeah, and it worked out. But I mean, for me, that song is it's not like a huge reflection on my like personality all of the time. It really is zoning in on how I felt that day that I wrote it, and
Mm.
it is literally just about how like irritating those guys like leechy people are, people who you
Sure.
just can't get rid of. Just years and years go by, and you do everything you can to try and tell them you don't want this, like whether it's a professional relationship or a personal relationship, and they just keep on coming back to you. And you just can't get rid of them, and uh it's that really, and you do anything you can. You just cross the road if you see them coming the other way, and you like just like walk into a bank to like so they don't see you, and just things like that. It's just about those people, and it's just trying to tell them to fuck off, like just really just fuck off. It was
What I find
that.
is what I find cool is then that obviously the music reflects that frustration or that feeling, and then with what you mentioned earlier as well, that's kind of where you gravitate towards, that things might be
Yeah.
getting heavier if you're in control. So it's interesting to hear how that song then takes shape.
Yeah.
One last thing, then you're going back on tour in the fall. You're also coming to Europe. You're coming to the Netherlands here. Um,
Yes.
is this the first kind of real headlining tour over here, or what are the expectations, so to say, for the next couple of months?
Yeah, it's the first big one. We did about a week, a year or a couple of years ago, where we did a few shows in the Netherlands and Belgium. Um, and it was really, really nice. But it also felt like that we were kind of like dipping our toes into that world. You know,
Mm.
there were headline shows, there was some festivals, there was a few things, but this is the first time we're coming out with like the intent of it being like the coach party tour in Europe. And we're like just so excited for it because we've been to Europe a lot now over the last
Sure.
couple of years, and we've met so many like great people and great bands, and it seems like anywhere we go in Europe, it's our new favorite place, you know, because the people are just so welcoming, and especially within music, it's you know, festivals, and whether it's a festival or a small gig, people just want you to be comfortable. They want to make sure that you're happy, and um, if it makes it sound like that I'm saying that in UK people don't want you to be happy. It's not the case, but um it just feels like extra special to be so far away from home, and people
Right.
just making you feel like you are at home. Like you guys are incredible at doing that.
It's what you mentioned with going up north to Edinburgh and having that show is kind of the realization. Okay, this music is resonating in these different places around the world. And I mean, I saw the amphitheater in Lyon that looked amazing to play something like that.
Yeah, I mean that one in particular for me was the most like unusual moment that I can remember in recent memory, because you are literally just like, wow, we're opening up for one of our favorite bands in a 2,000-year-old venue where, and the way that audience um like I couldn't really take it in when we were playing, but when we stood back and watched the Queens of the Stone Age gig, you're looking at that audience and you can see that like the energy that that venue still has, like it was unlike anything I've ever seen. That is just like raw enjoyment of sound. I don't know. It was so like I can't put it into words of how incredible that atmosphere was. But you can only put it down to that. Well, that's the same stands that audiences have been standing on for 2,000 years. Like
Right.
it's gonna have vibe, and it really does.
Guy, man, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you. That was really nice.